dropping out, and a professor came in and did something interesting.
I had gone to Dutchess Community College in Poughkeepsie, New York, and the president of the college, James Hall, very stern, formal Navy admiral, etc. None of the students liked him because he was so strict, but he was good at what he did. And I graduated from Dutchess, and I got a scholarship, Martin Luther King Scholarship to Boston University. But it was for a scholarship for the academic side, but not for room and board and books. And so I just struggled and got a job. It was just rough, and so I decided I was going to come back to Poughkeepsie, take off college for a year, earn some dollars from my books, etc., and then go back to BU after the year. And so I went to visit a friend of mine at Dutchess. As I'm leaving, going down the hall, Dr. Hall says, "Hey, Bill Duke, stop." I said, "Hey, Dr. Hall, I gotta go." He says, "No, come here." I go into his office, and he says, "How you doing at BU?" I said, "Well, I'm doing well, but I'm gonna drop out for a year and come back here and work and save some money for my room and board and books." He says, "No, you're not." "Dr. Hall, I can't discuss this." He says, "Wait a minute." And he goes into his vest pocket, pulls out an envelope, and hands it to me. And said, "What is this?" He says, "Open it." I open the envelope, and I pull out, it's a check. And it was a check that paid for my room, my board, my books, and food for the rest of my stay at Boston University. And I tried to thank him. He just said, so it kind of put another question on my racism, put it that way.
Right, because here's two white people
That cared.
who are helping you without asking for anything in return.
Nothing. Zero. I used to call him every year and say, "Dr. Hall, I know you don't want to hear this, but I love you for what you did." He used to stutter and just hang up.
Okay, so you go to Boston University, and then you go to NYU, to the Tisch School of Arts. And that's where you started getting your acting chops?
Well, my acting chops really started at Dutchess Community College, Constance Kuhn, speech and drama class, and we had to do a play every year. And she decided that she wanted to do The Emperor Jones by Eugene O'Neill, and I would be the co-star in the play. And I don't know why, but something happened. It clicked, something. But in those days, I told my parents I really like this, and they said, "You're out of your mind, and you're not going to be an actor because you're going to get educated and you're going to earn money, because doctors earn money, so you're going to be a doctor." In those days, you did what your parents told you to do. So I took pre-med courses, and they gave us cats and squalus acanthias and all kinds of things to take home and cut up veins and arteries, and my room smelled like formaldehyde. Everybody laughed at me, and I said, "This is not for me, it's not for me." So they said, "Okay, you're always writing in that journal. English teachers make money. You're going to be an English teacher." So I went away to BU and majored in English, but I'd fallen asleep for the third time in my Chaucer class. I don't know if you ever read Chaucer, but it's the most, I shouldn't say it. It's boring, okay? Significant historically, but boring. My roommate, Israel Hicks, said, "There's a black man up at the Department of Drama, and Lloyd Richardson, you've been talking about this acting thing, why don't you go up to an audition?" I went up there, auditioned, and I got in, to my own surprise. And I'm glad there was not YouTube at that time, because the next semester I was dancing across a floor in a ballet class in tights. That's not a pretty sight. So anyway, and once I got that bug, Lloyd became my mentor. I followed him to NYU, School of the Arts. Gave him my first job at the Negro Ensemble Company. And then he did a film out in LA for PBS called Gold Watch about the internment of Japanese during World War II. And he said I needed an assistant, so I came out. And I want to go back. He says, no, you're going to stay here. Just stay here and see what happens. And stayed here for a while, and then, got some good fortune and back to New York and came back out here to stay.
Right, because I guess after that you started hitting off, doing off-Broadway plays. Because you did like 30 or so plays during the 60s and 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually, got your acting skills together on the stage.
I love the stage, and I think stage acting is the foundation of all great actors. I mean, you find there's no take two, no close-ups. I mean, you're on that stage, either it works or doesn't. And I used to stand in the wings, as they call them, and look on at some of the most wonderful actors. You never heard of them for the most part, but some of the greatest talent I've ever known in my life, and just learn from just watching them. And Bee Wind and, Garrett Morris at that time was in a play called Ain't Supposed to Die After Death. And I mean, Minnie Gentry. It was like a learning experience.
So Blair White's video on Shane Dawson is very sobering and very interesting, and I think it needs to be discussed. Let's get into it. Skip it up and that up. So as you know, about a few days ago now, I put up a video on Shane Dawson, a couple videos, talking about things he said and actions he took, making, I guess, in his mind, comedic jokes towards kids. A 6-year-old Instagram girl was a cheerleader, things he said about her, Willow Smith being in a poster, and things he acted out there. And because of these things coming back to fruition, with what's going on, his YouTube channels were demonetized. His books were taken out of Target. His makeup line has been taken offline. And more information about him is coming forward all the time. And it always seems that his jokes were regarding little children in ways that I would never make a joke, no matter what era. I understand there were things back in the day that were more acceptable, but joking about kids and the way he joked about them, there never was that era. there never was that time that it was okay. And Blair White, who's been it was a friend of Shane Dawson's, or is a friend of Shane Dawson's, and has been in a video with him and all this, she even called him out, and she didn't hold back. And here are some clips from her video. If you want to see the full video, I'll have a link to it below in the description. But here are some of the highlights I took out from it. Take a look, and then we'll discuss.
You guys have nightmares? What are they about? Mine are always about somebody breaking into my house and taking my computer. But then it always scares me, because I'm like, if somebody stole my computer, you know how much blackmail they would have on me? I mean, the fact that I haven't been on To Catch a Predator yet is like a miracle.
When there's one or two jokes, okay. When there's like 30, 40 different statements and jokes, because again, some of them didn't sound like jokes to me, involving kids and the predation of kids, like, it starts to paint a picture. And I think that picture is further painted Okay, let's talk. This video, similar to my last video, is very difficult to make, although for different reasons. If you are new to this channel, hi, my name is Blair. I have several prevailing themes and purposes for this channel. The first is trans issues and discussing them because I am trans, and the second is calling out predators online, predatory behavior online, the sexualization of children, and just basically calling all that stuff out. So you can imagine, if you know my history, which is a history of having a friendship with Shane Dawson and doing videos with Shane Dawson, that a lot of very conflicting emotions arose once a lot of very disturbing clips started coming out online about Shane, by Shane, just old content, old jokes, old commentary about kids and preying on kids, and just some very questionable stuff.
Wait, Lucy, let's get real.
That's so embarrassing.
We want to know. We have a question.
What is it? Very important question. And you don't need to feel shy about it.
No, you really.
It's natural.
It's natural. Is there anybody around? No. So we want to talk to you. We want to explain what sex is to you. We did get really
Yeah.
quiet.
Oh, where's the other peep? We should probably
Oh yeah,
explain
we'll
this.
just use peeps.
Lucy, this happens.
See, oh,
Ah! And then you're so happy when you're an adult. I can't believe I'm endorsing this. Look what you've turned me into.
so Lucy, does that make sense?
So, you know, I have a history of speaking on this kind of stuff, but if you would have told me a month ago that the subject of one of these videos would have been Shane, I would have never believed you. I would have bet my entire bank account that that would not be true. But here we are. I do have very conflicted feelings on this, and part of that is, I don't want to say clouded, but I guess clouded by my own history with this person. And so it makes the whole thing difficult. But I've seen you guys' comments, I've read you guys' DMs, I've seen you guys ask, so are you going to keep the same energy for Shane as you did for Onision, Jessica Yaniv, Peaches, all these people? And the difficult answer is, yes, I am going to keep that same energy and I am going to be consistent here, but the real answer is I don't want to. To remain consistent with both my morals and the integrity and purpose of this channel, I do have to talk about this, so I'm going to. I think that there is a very important nuanced conversation that I'd like to have in this video that will be helpful for parents, survivors, kids, and if you're none of those things, I think the conversation that I intend to have in this video could potentially allow you and help you to better support those people. So let's talk. So some of these clips of Shane include questionable statements about pedophilia.
You guys have nightmares? What are they about? Mine are always about somebody breaking into my house and taking my computer. But then it always scares me because I'm like, if somebody stole my computer, you know how much blackmail they would have on me? I mean, the fact that I haven't been on To Catch a Predator yet is like a miracle.
Include questionable humor involving kids, specifically one with Willow Smith, which I will play right now.
Oh, whip your hair back and forth. Oh.
There is a conversation to be had, first of all, about how the internet and humor and culture was very different at the time this clip was created. However, the Smith family is disgusted and offended by this, so I don't really see how anyone else can really excuse it if the family of the girl involved can't excuse it. So that's one thing. When there's one or two jokes, okay. When there's like 30, 40 different statements and jokes, because again, some of them didn't sound like jokes to me, involving kids and the predation of kids, like, it starts to paint a picture. And I think that picture is further painted by some information that maybe not everyone's aware of, which is that Shane Dawson claims that he was victimized as a child himself. So this leads me into a discussion about how this type of thing is a cycle. And this type of thing, when it happens to you as a child, can, and sometimes statistically does, repeat itself. And people who were once victims become offenders. And I want to be very clear as well that I am not making any sort of accusation or statement that Shane has, as an adult, hurt anyone. However, there is a clip that is not being circulated a lot online that I think is very important and is a piece of this picture that is missing, and I'm gonna play it right now.
I also would molest kids on my street, but I would molest kids on my street. And that's another thing that they say that kids who are sexually abused do. Like, I would like make kids on my street like take their pants off, and I'd spank them and like do weird shit to them. And it didn't feel weird at the time, but looking back, I'm like, ew. I was like molesting kids. I was a kid too.
Were they your peers?
Yeah, I was probably 8 and they were 7 or something.
Right.
And I apologized to them. I found them on Facebook. I'm like,
You
sorry
did?
for molesting you.
Did
And
they
they're
remember?
They're like, one of them did. One of them was like, yeah, that's why my family made me stop hanging out with you. And I'm like, oops.
So, what you heard there was Shane admitting to violating others when he was also a kid as a result of what happened to him. Not the same thing as doing so as an adult. However, there is something a bit disturbing to me in the way that it was brought up and talked about, which was both nonchalant and in a humorous way. And while humor can be a coping mechanism, it's also very important to be aware that when you do that on a public stage, it is a bit irresponsible in my opinion. And what I think, as a result of seeing all these clips, all these statements, all these tweets, all these jokes out of Shane, what I think is that it paints a picture of someone who has not properly addressed the trauma they experienced. And that is something that I think, if the only takeaway from this video is that when you experience something like that, it is so vital to seek help. Because what we know statistically is, like I said, this type of thing can be a cycle. And while I think that there is a whole separate set of consequences and conversation to be had when it comes to whether or not Shane hurt someone as an adult or hurt someone as a child, I think those are two very different things. And as of now, there is absolutely no evidence that Shane has actually hurt someone as an adult, other than feelings, whether it be Willow Smith and the Smith family, which I'm totally not invalidating. However, we do have this admission by Shane that he hurt others while he was a kid. This is why, if your child goes through something like this, you have to seek therapy. You have to seek help. What I can only assume is that if Shane did seek the help from when he was hurt, it wasn't sufficient, because I do think, and this is not excusing any of the behavior by Shane, because I condemn it wholeheartedly. I think it's disgusting, a lot of the stuff he's put online in regards to kids and just jokes that, again, humor is humor. Sometimes you do cross a line. And when you cross that line just like dozens and dozens of times, it paints a picture. But I'm just trying to say that clearly these comments and these jokes stem from somewhere, and that is that trauma. And I think that paints a better understanding of what you're seeing coming out about Shane Dawson. One of the things that definitely made me realize this was an important video to do is when all these things started coming out about Shane, I had a very real conversation with my fiance, and he asked me, Blair, give me an honest answer. Do you think Shane Dawson is a pedophile? My reaction was, I don't think so. And the fact that I wasn't able to confidently state, hell no, of course not. Like, why are you even asking me that, is a problem. Whether that's a problem of him really being capable of hurting someone, I'm not in a position to say that, and I would hope to God that is not the case. But it clearly is a problem enough to where this trauma keeps coming out, and he keeps putting it out into the world. And if he puts it out into the world as much as he does, it makes me question how much of that same energy he puts out in private, if that makes sense. And I'm really not trying to make any accusations because, like I said, and I will fully admit that I have a bias here as someone who has a history with him. I want to, and I hope to God that is not the case, but I can't confidently say either way. So that has to be what I say about it. And I really don't want to throw dirt on someone who's already down I don't want to try to convince anyone to not support someone or take part in cancel culture, but I also don't want to pass up this opportunity to have the very important conversation of how these things become cycles. And when you're victimized in this way as a child, it tends to, it's almost like contagious. Like these things sometimes are generational and happen in families over and over and over again. That's why it's so important to stop the cycle and seek the proper help when it happens to you or when it happens to someone in your family. This is also by no means trying to paint Shane as a victim, you know, for the actions and the choices he made as an adult, because there's no excusing a lot of the stuff. There's just none. And you guys can be the judge of that for yourself. Like, I'm not here to put every clip here in this video, okay? It's gone viral. It's everywhere. You can find whatever you want to find. And at the end of the day, Shane was a grown man when he did these things. So I'm not here to make excuses for anyone. You know, I don't really know if Shane can come back from this. I know Target pulled his books and Morphe pulled his makeup, and, you know, I don't know about that aspect of it. But I do know that I hope that, you know, I have no control over the rest of the internet, but I hope within my own channel and within my own amazing community that I have here, which is you guys, that we can use this as a jump off to have that really important conversation about getting help and about, you know, stopping the cycle. I'm a little flustered, guys. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was itching. I'm not crying. I'm just, see how nervous I am? I'm like, damn, I don't want to be perceived in any kind of wrong way here, but it's just such a dark moment. Damn.
All right, here we go. We have legendary actor, director, producer, Bill Duke is in the building.
Thanks for having me, Vlad.
Hey, man, you know, ever since we had lunch a few years ago, I've been wanting to do this, and I'm glad we finally got a chance to sit down and pull this off, and I'm such a huge fan
Thank you.
of what you've been doing for such a long time.
Thank you. Again, I said, forgive my lip, because it's numb from the dentist I just came from, but I'll talk.
That's a true professional right there.
Done.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of people would have canceled, but Bill Duke is like, nah, I got an appointment. We're gonna make this happen.
Not a problem, brother.
No doubt. Well, let's go ahead and start from the very beginning. This is our first interview. So you grew up in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Poughkeepsie, New York. That's right.
Okay, and this was the 30s, 40s?
1943.
Okay, so the 40s and 50s. That's when you were a kid.
That's right.
Okay, and you know, a fairly low-income family. Both your parents were together, though, right?
My parents stayed together, second and third grade educations. They never took welfare or social assistance of any kind. They were very proud. My father worked 3 jobs, and mother worked 2.
That's amazing, but they only
7
had a
days a week.
second and third grade education. Oh, why is that? Why did they drop out of school so early?
In those days, we're talking about segregation. They grew up in the South. They saw lynchings. They called nigger barbecues, where they would spin people that were alive on pits until they were dead and dehydrated, and they would hold up pieces of their bodies and smile. Hundreds of people. So they came from a very oppressed society. My father from Orange, Virginia, my mother from West Point, Mississippi. So escaping that oppression was their main focus. They wished they had focused on education, and they insisted that my sister and I be educated, but they had other options, and they have the same options.
So, okay, let me just do the timeline here. So you were born in the 40s. So your parents, I guess, were born in the 20s?
Not only the 20s, but 1901, 1905.
Okay. So they had relatives, and they were living in the Deep South, so they had, I guess, what, grandparents that were still slaves?
Their grandparents and great-grandparents. Slavery was a recent thing for them. But more than slavery, the inheritance of slavery in the sense that when they were going to church on a Sunday, say it was raining, and say they were on the sidewalk. If a white family came their direction, I mean in the opposite direction, they had to step into the mud and bow their heads until the white family passed, then get back on the sidewalk and walk to church. And every time a white family passed toward them, they had to step into the mud and bow their heads.
Wow, right, because even after, slavery officially ended, then the Jim Crow laws came in and...
He said a very important
things
thing, officially.
Yeah. Okay, so your parents really just saw some horrific things.
They saw bad things.
Yeah. Okay. So you grew up in Poughkeepsie. So at one point they made their way north.
Yes.
Okay, and they settled in Poughkeepsie. So, a lot of people that grew up in various neighborhoods that I've talked to, some of them say, well, I didn't really grow up around a lot of white people, or I've had some negative, some positive experiences with white people. But in your situation, you actually said that you hated white people early on.
Well, when I was called nigger, spook, coon, all kinds of baboon, on the bus, in school, etc. And my first day in kindergarten, I was called nigger and blackie. I remember coming home crying and went to the bathroom and tried to take, they used to have Babo cleanser at those days, and wipe the black off of my skin. I thought maybe if I could do that and people would love me more, and then I was gonna drink some bleach in the bathroom. My mother came in just in time, and because I thought the bleach would whiten me. And I was 7 or 8 years old. I didn't know any better. But it was a time when you really were traumatized by the way you were treated as a child, and it's not easy to get over. But what happened was, in high school, for example, I met some friends that were white and didn't care what color I was. And then Mrs. Walker, my English teacher in high school, I was awkward. She's called dyslexia. I don't know if you know what dyslexia is. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't communicate very well, but I memorized most of Roget's thesaurus. But I used to write in a journal because I was not good at communicating, and I wrote poems and I wrote, feelings. I used to write in her class while she was teaching, and she told me not to do it twice, and I did it the third time. She took my journal, and I was upset. I hated her. I said, there's this white woman going again and being discriminatory against a black person. The end of that year, as I'm leaving the class, she says, Duke, stop. And so I said, what do you want, Miss Walker? She said, sit down. So here we go. She goes under her desk and she pulls out my original journal that she took from me and a book. It was a national poetry contest. She had entered some of my poems into the contest, and I had won some things. Mm-hmm. And that confused me because this is a white woman that cared enough about me to enter my poems into a contest, and I won. And when I tried to thank her, she said, don't thank me, I believe in you. That was one of the first times I had a mental spin, let's say.
Well, I'm going with the timeline real quick. You were born what year?
1943.
So you were 12 years old when Emmett Till happened.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
I want to get emotional, but how can you forget it? Did you ever see the pictures
Yeah.
after they took him from the lake. Looks like a monster, face bloated and half gone. Because they said that he's like a child, right? And that he whistled or something at a white woman. And do you know that years later, she came forth and said he never did it?
Yeah. Yeah.
He died because of that.
Yeah. And it's one thing for us to read about the story now in 2018, but you were actually there when the newspapers, because his mother, which must have been like the hardest thing in the world, she insisted on an open casket funeral and insisted that people take photos of what her son looked like.
Yes.
So everyone could see the type of horrors that was
Yes.
happening in the Deep South.
Yes.
Yeah, and this
It
was,
was a pretty it was a difficult time.
yeah. Yeah, but it did bring a lot of attention to that situation.
Yes.
And that was happening all the time. There was not just one Emmett Till. Emmett Till was happening all the time. Yeah.
A lot of people were murdered. A lot of people were hanged, lynched, and they had actually barbecues of black people. It was a Holocaust, our Holocaust, other than slavery and coming over on the ships. But it's amazing to me the resilience of oppressed people,
Yeah.
It's like some people just give up, but others, my parents had a certain resolve. My parents taught my sister and I something from the age of like 5 and 6 until we left the house. And they had this phrase which I never forgot, and they said, you're no better than anybody else, but nobody else is better than you. And when you take that in from your parents and understand it, no matter what anybody says to you, you remember that. And that was salvation for us.
You were the first person in your family to go to college, right?
To a college, yes.
Okay. And you went to college, and I guess you were thinking about dropping out, and a professor came in and did something interesting.
I had gone to Dutchess Community College in Poughkeepsie, New York, and the president of the college, James Hall, very stern, former Navy admiral, etc. None of the students liked him because he was so strict, but he was good at what he did. And I graduated from Dutchess, and I got a scholarship, Martin Luther King Scholarship at Boston University. But it was for a scholarship for the academic side, but not for room and board and books. And so I just struggled and got a job. And it was just rough, and so I decided I was going to come back to Poughkeepsie, take off college for a year, earn some dollars from my books, etc., and then go back to BU after the year. And so I went to visit a friend of mine at Dutchess. As I'm leaving, going down the hall, Dr. Hall says, "Hey, Bill Duke, stop." I said, "Hey, Dr. Hall, I gotta go." He says, No, come here. I go into his office, and he says, "How you doing at BU?" I said, "Well, I'm doing well, but I'm gonna drop out for a year and come back here and work and save some money for my room and board and books." He says, "No, you're not." I said, "Dr. Hall, I can't discuss this." He says, "Wait a minute." And he goes into his vest pocket, pulls out an envelope, and hands it to me. And he said, "What is this?" He says, "Open it." I open the envelope, and I pull out, it's a check. And it was a check that paid for my room, my board, my books, and food for the rest of my stay at Boston University. And I tried to thank him. He just said, so it kind of put another question on my racism, put it that way.
Right, because here's two white people
That cared.
who are helping you without asking for anything in return.
Nothing. Zero. I used to call him every year and say, Dr. Hall, I know you don't want to hear this, but I love you for what you did. He used to stutter and just hang up.
Okay. So you go to Boston University, and then you go to NYU, to the Tisch School of Arts.
Yes.
And that's where you started getting your acting chops?
Well, my acting chops really started at Dutch Community College, Constance Kuhn, speech and drama class, and we had to do a play every year. And she decided that she wanted to do The Emperor Jones by Eugene O'Neill, and I would be the co-star in the play. And I don't know why, but something happened. It clicked, something. But in those days, I told my parents I really liked this, and they said, you're out of your mind, and you're not going to be an actor because you're going to get educated and you're going to earn money, because doctors earn money, so you're going to be a doctor. In those days, you did what your parents told you to do. So I took pre-med courses, and they gave us cats and, squalus acanthias and all kinds of things to take home and cut up veins and arteries, and my room smelled like formaldehyde. Everybody laughed at me, and I said, this is not for me, it's not for me. So they said, okay, you're always writing in that journal, English teachers make money, you're going to be an English teacher. So I went away to BU and majored in English, but I'd fallen asleep for the third time in my Chaucer class. I don't know if you ever read Chaucer, but it's the most, I shouldn't say it, but it's boring, okay? Significant historically, but boring. My roommate, Israel Hicks, said, there's a black man up at the Department of Drama, and Lloyd Richards, and he'd been talking about this acting thing, why don't you go up to an audition? I went up there, auditioned, and I got in, to my own surprise. And I'm glad there was not YouTube at that time, because the next semester I was dancing across a floor in a ballet class in tights. That's not a pretty sight. So anyway, and once I got that bug, Lloyd became my mentor. I followed him to NYU, School of the Arts, gave him my first job at the Negro Ensemble Company, and then he did a film out in LA for PBS called Gold Watch about internment of Japanese during World War II. And he said I need an assistant, so I came out, and I want to go back. He says, no, you're going to stay here. Just stay here and see what happens. And stayed here for a while, and then, got some good fortune and went back to New York and came back out here to stay.
Right, because I guess after that, you started hitting off, doing off-Broadway plays. I guess you did like 30 or so plays during the 60s and 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually, got your acting skills together on the stage.
I love the stage, and I think stage acting is the foundation of all great actors. I mean, you find there's no take two, no close-ups. I mean, you're on that stage, either it works or doesn't. And I used to stand in the wings, as they call them, and look on at some of the most wonderful actors. You never heard of them for the most part, but some of the greatest talent I've ever known in my life, and just learn from just watching them. And Bee Wind, and Garrett Morris at that time was in a play called Ain't Supposed to Die After Death, and I mean Minnie Gentry. It was like a learning experience.
Well, I guess at one point, being a working actor is not always the easiest thing in the world, and at one point the money ran out, and you actually started to have to panhandle on the street.
Unfortunately, that's the way our business is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up standing in front of, I didn't pay my rent for 2 months. They were going to eject me from my apartment. And I was literally begging for money. And amazing thing happened to me. An older black lady was passing me. I said, ma'am, do you have some change? She looked at me and just passed by. Another person was coming by, and I said, do you have some change? I felt a tap on my back. I turned around, it was that same older black lady. And she looked me in my face and my eyes and she said, "Baby, do your mama know you out here doing this?" It was a profound moment because it reminded me of my parents' teachings. And if my mother and father saw me out here doing something like that, it would have brought what they call shame to the family. So I never begged for money after that. What I did do is, with my girlfriend, I had an overcoat and we sewed big pockets into the overcoats and used to go to A&P and put food inside and steal food from the A&P to survive.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a humbling experience, you know, to go through that. You know, I'm sure you look back on that now when you're living in your high rise and going like, wow, like a lot has happened since then.
Part of the prices that you pay in this business, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't think people really understand our business in the sense that they see your success, but they don't see the process you had to go through to get there. That's why in my book, I just wrote my autobiography, Bill Duke, 40 years in front of behind the camera, and I talk about the struggle that most of us have, you know. As you know, only a small percentage of the Screen Actors Guild works annually, like 15 or 20%. And out of that, only 30 or 40% make over $50,000 a year. So you're facing, you know, and what that's called is rejection. I mean, people tell you to get over it, it's no big deal, but if you go up for, say, 4 or 5 auditions a month and everybody says, no, 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 not you. People say don't take it personally, but something happens. And to get rid of that pain, sometimes people take alcohol or drugs or whatever, or indulge in things that aren't good for them. I was fortunate enough to find transcendental meditation, so once I found meditation, it saved my life. It literally did, because I was a drug head.
What drugs were you taking at the time?
Cocaine, marijuana, hashish, and the most significant one was acid.
Okay.
Timothy Leary?
I've taken acid before.
Would you
Yeah, I thought you were going to say heroin, because I guess during that time, you know, with all the
I came
jazz
this close
artists
to
and
heroin.
everything else like that.
This guy took the heroin and put it to my nose like this at a party, and my friend pushed his hand away and said, "Don't do that to Bill." It came this close.
Yeah, heroin is one of those that people don't usually recover from. Once you get to, you know, go down that, you know, that particular road, it's a wrap.
It was the grace of God, man. It was.
Yeah.
All I can tell you is, I'm very fortunate.
So, your first, I guess, big movie was Car Wash?
The first big movie I acted in was Car Wash, the great Michael Schultz.
Okay. And you played Abdullah Muhammad Akbar,
That's right.
a.k.a. Dwayne.
Dwayne, that's right.
Okay. And Car Wash is one of these all-time classics, you know, at this point. I mean, because, you also had Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Danny DeVito. It was
incredible.
a fairly all-star
incredible.
cast.
It was incredible.
Did you know how big that movie was
no,
going
none
to
of us
get?
did. I mean, the great Ivan Dixon was in it. You know, it was a collaborative experience. It was great. We all loved working together, but I don't think any of us knew that it was going to blow up like that, and how long it was going to last in people's mind as kind of a pioneering event, you know, because it had the Pointer Sisters who did music, Richard Pryor and George, they did comedy, and then there was a serious part of it too. It was layered because I was Abdullah and I was frustrated with the world and the system and how unfair it was, and so it reflected a lot of elements of the period.
Yeah, I remember I was watching that scene where you went to go rob, I guess, the manager, you know, with the gun, And he kept saying, like, man, just put the gun down, you know. And you're watching this going like, okay, is he going to shoot him? Is he not? And at one point, you finally just put the gun down. You kind of cried, and it was a very poignant moment in that movie.
Thank
You
you
know,
very
to
much.
actually that scene. You really pulled off. You could tell, like, you know, seeing you at that point, you know, with tears running down your eyes. It's like, okay, this is a very trained actor right here. This is a guy who's not just winging it. This is a guy that's been working on his craft for a while by this point.
Thank you. Yes, you know, and I'm so glad you said that, man, because I mean, I can appreciate reality shows and stuff, but the craft of acting is a whole different deal, man. That's why I say being on stage, you have to have the craft on stage. And when you bring it to film, it's different in the sense that you don't have this big proscenium because the camera's right here. So you have to learn how to not do too much. But in terms of the acting chops, it gives you a lot of depth and also the courage to surrender, because after you learn all the lines and everything, it's not just about speaking the lines, it's about listening to who you're talking to and responding out of something that it's hard to explain, but responding truthfully to what's been said to you.
Yeah. Any interesting stories working with Richard Pryor during that time?
First of all, Richard was one of the funniest I made. He was funny, gracious, smart, brilliant guy. But he was funny because he told the truth. I don't know if you ever saw on Saturday Night Live the thing with him and Chevy Chase.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Is that funny as hell or not?
The word association one?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then I saw something else about him that was blew my mind. He came out of divorce court after his second divorce, and he was literally bawling and crying. And the reporter said, "Richard, why are you crying?" And a classic line, he said, "Man, she took everything but the blame."
Yeah,
I loved it.
I interview a lot of comedians, you know, on Vlad TV, and whenever I ask about, you know, the all-time greatest stand-ups, they all say Richard Pryor. You know, Eddie Murphy's usually number 2, but Richard Pryor is is pretty much always number 1.
I love George Carlin. George Carlin was a genius, you know.
Oh yeah.
And George Carlin just told the truth. He made you think about things in a totally different way, you know.
You go and do Car Wash. You do some TV stuff, and then the next big movie was American Gigolo
Yes,
with Richard Gere.
Richard Gere.
Yep. He was the male sex symbol of that time, of that era.
Big time. He was
Okay.
worshipped.
Yeah. And you actually played a gay pimp.
Yes.
You were his pimp, actually.
Yeah, his pimp. Yes, and you know,
Yeah, his pimp.
Was I consider myself a businessman,
Right.
and whether you were a woman or a man, I sold you for a price.
Right. What was it? You know, did you have any reservations about playing a gay character?
Yes, I did. You know, but my agent really talked me into it because number one, I'm working with Richard Gere,
Yeah.
and I think was it Paul Schrader?
Yeah. Paul Schrader's the director. Yeah.
Yes. He had directed a movie before that with Richard Pryor and it was Cotto, I forgot his last name. But it was about something blue, I think. But it was about an auto factory, and they both got killed in the end. But it was such a brilliantly done movie. I wanted to work with him also. So there were my hesitations where I put that aside to work with Richard Gere and Paul Schrader, and that was an amazing experience.
Yeah, I guess Richard Gere accidentally kills you
Yes.
in that movie
Yes.
off the balcony.
Yeah, and my boots were in his hands.
Right. Right. Okay. So you go and do some movies, some TV, but then you actually switch gears, and I guess you go back to school to learn directing.
Yes, I always wanted to. I directed plays. I wrote my own plays. I directed other people's plays in New York and here in LA. But I was always intimidated. I always wanted to direct film, but I was always intimidated by the equipment. I mean, the camera, the lights, the sound, all the crew members. I mean, it was like intimidating. So I was on a show called Palmerstown, USA, which Norman Lear and Alex Haley co-executive produced with Jonelle Allen, and we co-starred in it with some other good people. But I didn't work for 2 years after that. And so a friend of mine said, you know, Bill, why don't you just apply to AFI? I applied and I got in. And so Tony Vellani and Gene Furstenberg were running AFI at that time, up at the mansion off of Sunset. And it was one of the most, how can I say, powerful experiences I had in my life. The book at that time that they went by was by Michelli, The 5 C's of Cinematography. They taught the details of that. And once you learned that, you understood filmmaking. And it's not just saying action cut, but what is a character arc? What is a story arc? What are you trying to say in the film? I mean, what are the visual statements you can make that help tell the story? They taught the specifics of that. And the thing that was cold-blooded about it, they're preparing you for the reality of Hollywood. So after every quarter, you have to go down in the basement of the mansion, and they had a list. If your name was not on the list, that means you were out. And luckily, I stayed.
Well, I mean, in 2018, it's very normal to have a black director. I mean, Jordan Peele does his thing. You know, Ryan Coogler is doing Black Panther. But you were actually one of the very first black directors in TV and movies.
Yes.
You were one of a very, very small group of pioneers.
Mm-hmm. I was very fortunate, you know. I'll tell you, I got my first job in TV. Out of their AFI, I took the film The Hero, which is a short film I made at AFI that got some recognition. I took it around to all the studios and networks, and no one would give me a shot. They say, we'll give you a second shot, but not the first. It's a much bigger risk. So I was depressed, and I do transcendental meditation, so I went away to a retreat. I was there for a week, and my agent calls me and says, David Jacobs at Knots Landing wants you to come in. I said, wow, okay. Go to David Jacobs' office, and he and I talked for like 10, 15 minutes. And I leave, and I said, this is never going to happen. A week passes, and my agent says, you got the job. I was in shock. I mean, directing one of the hottest shows on TV at the time. I told everybody I knew. So I, went there and, in pre-production, and my last day of pre-production, I think it was Joel Wallenstein was the line producer at the time, came to me and said, hey, Bill, pre-production was great, but I knew you were going to be good based upon your reel. I said, what reel? Well, the reel that you turned into David. I said, no, I just got an AFI, He said, wait, whoa. He goes into David Jacobs' office. David Jacobs had mixed my reel up with somebody else's. And that's how I got my first job.
So you got hired by accident, basically.
But I got hired.
But you got hired and you kept the job. At one point, you started directing Dallas.
Yes, I did.
Which was
the first black
like
director
the
on
hottest. Yeah, it was like the hottest show on television. But it's a very white show. I don't know if there are any black people on Dallas at all.
No.
And from what I understand, the first time that you showed up, they didn't believe that you were the director. I guess they thought you were a delivery man or something?
Well, I show up in my used car, which I washed and shined myself, and I had a nice jacket on with a tie, briefcase. My car, I wanted to be impressive on Dallas. And I drive up to the gate, I roll the window down, and the security guard looks at me and he says, who are you delivering for? I said, what did you say? He said, who are you delivering for? I looked in his face, you know. As I say in my book, I said I wanted to say, I'm going to deliver a can of whip ass to you because of what you just said. I didn't say that because the night before, Dr. King had had a video on TV where he talked about, you know, don't react in such a way and da 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 da. And so after I recovered from that, I looked at him and I said, must be some misunderstanding. I'm the first black director on Dallas. I'm delivering my talent to the show, and they hired me to do so, to open the gate. The most rewarding thing was the gasp from the guard.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically breaking glass ceilings at this point.
Well, you know, yeah, but when glass cracks, it cuts. So you're able to survive that. It's good, but I was very fortunate to be able to shatter that ceiling to a certain extent.
And you kept directing stuff. I guess you did episodes of Miami Vice, which was my favorite show.
Yes,
during
great
that
show.
time. That was, Crockett and Tubbs. Forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're doing Hill Street Blues, a bunch of stuff.
Yes, many shows.
And then Schwarzenegger came around.
Well, you know,
So,
when I went to audition for Commando, Joel Silver embraced me and my talent, and doing Commando was really my first big movie. And working with Arnold was, first of all, Arnold was one of the funniest people ever meet on the earth. He's a big guy, you know, but great sense of humor, funny, and humble too, and supportive of the other actors on the set. So that was a great experience working with him.
right, and for those that are too young to really realize, Arnold Schwarzenegger at that time was the equivalent of Dwayne Johnson today. The biggest action star in the world,
right.
No question.
That's right.
I guess Sylvester Stallone may have been number 2 at this point, but you know, this was a huge worldwide phenomenon,
That's right.
Arnold Schwarzenegger. So a Schwarzenegger movie was essentially the biggest type of movie that you could be in. And here you are co-starring, well, now you're, you know, as an action star, as one of the GIs, right there with him.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie was a huge hit.
Commando did very well. Did very well. And it was his foundation for his next movie, which is Predator.
Right, which you were in as well.
Yes. They invited me to do that too.
Yeah, you had a hell of a performance. I remember that one scene when you were like, look up in the trees, like I see him, like, it's like the tension of like, you know, I guess that was the first time you actually sort of saw the Predator in his
Yes.
camouflage suit. It was a hell of a movie, man. I mean, The Predator is one of these all-time classics to this day. I mean, which is why they ended up remaking it eventually.
It was. I cannot tell you the experiences totally. You know, it's like it was a great experience. We all bonded because we were in conditions that were unbearable. Heat sometimes over 100 degrees. Up in the middle of the jungle of Puerto Vallarta. We moved down to Palenque near the Guatemalan border, and it was. I say this in the book also that, you know, the first week we were there, the caterer put netting around the tent that we ate because of the bugs and the animals. And the first week, no matter what the food was, there were bugs in it. You say, take this crap back. We're not eating it. There's bugs in it. But by the second week, there was no more food, so the bugs became what we call protein.
So you guys ate the bugs.
Yeah.
Any crazy Schwarzenegger stories between those two movies?
Well, Arnold was always, he's a jokester, but, one of the crazy things in terms of Predator, we were in this hotel in Mexico, Parvada, and he just bought out 2 ballrooms and had tractors and trailers from LA ship in gym equipment that filled the ballrooms. So the ballrooms became gyms. And every day that we shot, and I did it for like a week or so, and then I didn't. But him and the guys, Jesse and the other guys, let's say we had a 7:30 call on the set. They would get up like at 3 or 4:30, and they run a few miles. And they come back and work out in the gym for an hour and a half, then go to breakfast, and then go to the set. That was the routine. I did it for a week, and they called me a wimp after that, but I didn't care. But it was crazy.
You go and do those 2 movies, and you're still directing. And I didn't realize this until I started actually, going through and doing research before this interview. You directed one of my all-time favorite movies, Deep Cover.
Thank you. Thank you.
I had no idea. All these years, I've been such a mega fan of that movie. I'll be honest, I've said this before. I actually got inspired, I mean, not in a good way, obviously, but I actually got inspired to actually mess around with drug dealing after watching that movie.
Wow.
Watching that movie, I had a friend that was involved in some street shit, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll be the white business guy, and he's the street guy, and I'm gonna do the deep cover thing, and he ripped me off right away, and I lost a bunch of money, and that was the end of my drug dealing career. But
Well, I understand. It was the movie gave an insight, but it was based on a book.
yeah, I heard about that.
And the guy who wrote the book, inspired the movie. Henry Bean, read the book and then wrote the film based upon the book. But this was a guy, actually was in the service, and he used to go after what they call the mules on the street that sold the drugs. But he asked himself one day, wait a minute, they're not growing it, they're not importing it. Why don't I look at the guys that are growing it and importing it? So he went to the high ups above him, and they told him to stop, and he didn't, and he got fired.
Well, it was a hell of a performance. Lawrence Fishburne and I guess Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum, Clarence Williams the third, some really good people. I was very fortunate, to get those guys.
Hell of a movie.
Thank you.
But what made that movie even more special as a hip hop fan was Dr. Dre did the score.
Dre and Snoop.
Right. Well, Dre did the score, and Dre and Snoop did the single.
That's right.
Deep Cover. And this was kind of an interesting time because this was after Dre had broken up with Eazy-E and left Ruthless Records.
Right.
And we hadn't actually heard any new music from Dre in, I think, a couple of years or something, because he was going through contract disputes and everything else like that. And the first time you heard new music from Dre was Deep Cover. Mm-hmm. Did you and Dre already know each other?
No.
When you brought him in?
No,
Not
I didn't
at all.
know him. I just knew his music and his work.
Okay.
And I really liked a lot of the lyrics. They were very controversial at the time, but they, powerful stuff. And I wanted that kind of feeling to the film. And so that's why I brought him in.
Yeah, that was, I think, the only time that Dre actually scored a movie. I don't know if he actually did another score before or after.
Well, he didn't really score the entire film. He lent that music to it, and the composer, I forgot his name now, really took those themes and wove it through the film.
Ah, okay. Okay, but on the soundtrack, that was when Dr. Dre finally came back.
Yes.
With a new artist named Snoop Doggy Dogg.
Snoop Doggy Dogg.
When you first heard it, I remember me and my friends are like, "Oh yeah, this is the next big rap star right here. Here we go. Like
Right.
Dre's about to do it all over again. And because the Deep Cover soundtrack came out first, and I guess I remember the soundtrack. Dre kind of had some of his like new artists kind of sprinkled in and stuff like that. And then after that, that's when the Chronic came out.
Right.
And then it was just like, forget it. That
Took
was
off.
like, yeah, it was the biggest thing in the world. But Deep Cover was actually what launched that whole movement.
Foundation.
Did you know how big it was going to be when he actually submitted all these songs and everything?
I thought none of us did. We had passion for the film and its message, but in terms of it blowing up like that, I think it was New Line that did it at that time. And I don't even know if New Line knew that, but it was one of the, for me, one of the most satisfying experiences for me as a director, working with that talent and the theme itself and Dre and everybody. It was very rewarding.
Yeah, no, every character in that movie was a standout. Even the Spanish dude, who beat that guy to death in the beginning.
Yes.
And yeah, man, that was a masterpiece.
Thank you.
Because I looked through some of the other movies that he directed, like Rage in Harlem and Hoodlum and stuff like that. But I would say Far and Beyond, that was to me your best work.
So glad you liked it. man.
As a
Thank you.
director.
Thank you.
The movie that everyone from this generation knows you from.
Don't say it. I know what you're going to say.
You know what I'm gonna say? Menace to Society.
Yes. I only have one scene. One scene.
One scene. You were not a recurring character.
No.
You were not on the poster.
No.
You your whole part was, I think, maybe 5 minutes long at the most.
That's right.
So what led into you actually doing that role?
I love the Hughes brothers. I think they're brilliant writers and also directors, the collaboration. And I like the story too because it was a street story, but it humanitized the kids, It wasn't just like these are these bad little gang members, but it showed their humanity also. And that one scene, it's amazing. I did a film recently called Mandy with Nicolas Cage, and we're in Brussels, Belgium. I'm in Brussels, Belgium, and kids come up to me and say that line in Belgium. You know what I'm saying? It's in all the films I've done, that's the one line they remember.
Can you redo that part?
Now?
Yeah.
No, you done fucked up, right?
I mean,
You said
that
you
line-
bought no.
that
You
line-
said you bought the bottle of beer at 3:00, and now you're saying it's 5:00. You know you done fucked up, right?
and then Tyron Turner was like, no, I said that I got the bottle in the.
You started stuttering. Remember that?
Yep. No. You see what I said was.
No. You know you done fucked up, right?
That role of you playing the detective in that movie, you actually based it on the way that your father used to talk to you.
Oh, listen, my father's position. Say my sister and I were, he asked us a question, right? And let's say we gave him, in these days' terms, an alternative fact. He would look at us, right? And these kinds of words, he would be silent and say, "You finished?" Say, "Yeah, we're finished." He would say things like, "I'm not as dumb as you look." It's like, if my father and mother told my sister and I not to ride our bikes on the street, but on the sidewalk because of traffic, if Mrs. Johnson, the next door neighbor, saw us riding our bike on the street, she would step in front of our bikes, take us and put her on a living room couch and say, "Don't say a word." She'd pick up her phone and call my father at work. She would say, "Bill, they're riding their bikes on the street." He would say, "I'll be there in an hour." That was the longest hour of our lives. Because we knew it was going to happen. He didn't never raise his voice. He just would sit us down and explain and ask us, "Do you understand what the issue is here? Do you understand the problem? And there are consequences to..." And we think because he talked to us, we could talk through it and then he'd forgive us. And he'd finish, he said, "You understand? Good. Go out and get a switch."
You'd have to go get the switch that he would then use to beat you with.
Yes. But he'd explain why we're getting beat.
Oh man, you actually played a cop in a bunch of different movies. You were kind of like the go-to cop guy for a while. It's funny because, a lot of people call me the police, the way I interview people. People say that my interviews sound like interrogations. So
But they're good interrogations.
I guess I got it from you.
Okay. That's all good.
Right, because you were actually in one of the episodes of the Boondocks.
I love
guess-
Boondocks.
I was actually in one of the episodes of the Boondocks also.
Oh, wow. I it's one
I
of
was
the-
playing myself.
And what's his Uncle Root? What's his
Uncle
name?
Ruckus.
Ruckus.
Yeah.
One of the funniest characters ever. I just thought that was so. I don't even know why it went off.
Creative differences between the two main writers. They just stopped getting along, and then I guess they wanted more money out of Sony. There was a big convoluted reason. It was my favorite show on television. Like the fact that I got to be in that show animated as myself. That to me was like, okay, I made it. You know?
I thought you guys were brilliant, man. I'm serious. I mean,
Oh yeah.
the way you handled relevant social issues with humor was brilliant, really.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and you basically reprised your character from Menace to Society
That's right.
in the Boondocks. You basically were playing the same character.
That's right. It was fun.
Man, listen. You know we done fucked up, don't you? People are gonna remember that way past both of us being gone. Like that's just one of those timeless lines, and you still see memes to this day, like on Instagram.
Yes.
Like hell of a line, man. And the fact that was your only line in the whole movie. I mean, you stole the show in that whole movie.
I loved it, man. We had a good time. We had a great time.
Yep. I mean, it's interesting because I interviewed a lot of, I interviewed Tyron Turner and MC8, and they both kind of explained to me how Tupac originally was supposed to be in the movie.
He had an opinion about his character. Every time it came down to him to start reading, he would stop and just start going, well, why my character ain't this? Why this? Why that? So he wanted them to write in the script why he turned Muslim. Show why. Okay, what? Oh, because I guess the depiction of it was supposed to be his little brother had got killed or whatever, but they wasn't going to show all that. Okay. It was just a point of view.
So there was more to the story than just he just showed up late.
Yeah,
Okay.
he didn't want that character. Or make my character so the audience can understand why I'm a Muslim now.
My version of it is Tupac came into the reading. We were all there, me. I don't know if MCA was there yet with me, Loren, Jada. We're all at the reading or whatever. And Tupac, we all started rehearsing and reading or whatever. And in the middle of it, Tupac was like, man, I don't know, I can't get into this character. It's just, I need more meat. I need some more, And then Alan Hughes was like, Tupac, you interrupting the session. Let's just finish reading. So we start reading again, and Tupac was like, I'm sorry, I just can't get into it. And then Alan Hughes was like, Tupac, why you acting like a bitch? You're acting like a bitch right now. You acting like a straight bitch. Let's step outside. This is what I hear. So Tupac and Allen Hughes step outside. Allen comes back in, and Tupac never returns. That was the last time I seen Tupac.
He ended up beating up the Hughes brothers later on at a video set over that situation.
They were brilliant guys, man. They were brilliant guys, and Tupac was brilliant too, man. I just loved his work, and died much too soon, man.
Oh yeah. Tupac was still alive. Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, because he was already becoming a movie star in his own right at 25.
Yes, and I think the whole rap music scene would have been totally different if he had lived also.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Now you described acting as a pimp and hoe game. Explain that.
Well, no. Well, I say this: business is a pimp and hoe game. I mean, you know, it's like at agencies in the old days. Did you know that they talked about actors, right? To say that they're in our stables. Is that actually use the? You ever heard of the word stables?
Yeah, it's a pimp term.
Yeah, we're in a stable. And I had an argument with an agent of mine once. Because at a certain point, you know, people were calling me because they knew my work and were bringing their work to the agent, you know. And I said to the agent, I said to him, you know, it's like, I appreciate the work that you're doing, but I'm bringing a lot of work to you guys, you know. And I said, this is a pimp and hoe game. I said, but, you know, I don't look good in fishnets and pumps. And so why don't you get out in the corner and bring something to me. And the agent at the time was not happy with what I said, but he had to admit that what I said was true.
Well, you know, you said something interesting in an interview that you did recently, and you said that that a lot of times people want success more than they want self-respect. And, you know, sometimes you get the success, but knowing the price that you paid for it, you know, you choke on it for the rest of your life. You know, we talked about how early in your career you played a gay character. And, you know, I've had interesting conversations with people over the years where, you know, they felt that, you know, as a black actor, for you to reach the next level, you have to dress up, you know, as a woman and drag and, you know, kind of undermine the male masculinity that, you know, that people pride themselves in. Did you ever feel at times that, okay, I just can't take this character because I'm going to lose my own self-respect by doing this?
Not only in the past, but recently. I mean, you know, it's, what can I say? There, you know, it's important to distinguish the difference between the battle and the war. Sometimes, I mean, I play chess. I love chess. And sometimes you have to lose a battle to win the war. But I think you have to be selective in terms of what battles you choose to lose. Because when you do a film, it lives far past your lifetime. Mm-hmm. You're known by what people see. And so you want to leave a legacy that's, the compromises are less than the accomplishments. Make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So you turned down roles because you just felt like, okay, I'm not going to be able to sleep at night if I do this.
Sleep is very important.
Right. You know, being in the industry now 40 plus years, we're now at a very interesting time with the whole Me Too movement. You know, you have people like Harvey Weinstein that at one point was at the top of his game, you know, head of a big production house. Now he's filing for bankruptcy, he's fighting multiple, he's trying to stay out of prison. And you said that you've seen situations where women have exchanged sexual favors for roles in movies and so forth. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, it's first of all, I don't think a man should approach any woman in a disrespectful way, whether it's touching her or any kind of verbal abuse or a verbal insult on any level. That should not happen. And I think people who do that should be punished for it, and they are. So I think that that's very, very important. On the other side of the scale, I have witnessed very powerful men in this industry being approached by women in a way that, how can I say, that the man knows that he can have anything he wants. And I think it comes out of desperation. And today it's even, I mean, people do things on, I used to look online and see people doing things, I mean, that you couldn't imagine people would have done 20 years ago in terms of public for attention and fame. I mean, multiple sex partners doing, and they get recognition, but, you know, I'll tell you a funny thing that happened to me. This was like 2 or 3 years ago now. And I'm not one of the big guys. I'm just telling you that's what happened. I'm in Trader Joe's and I'm shopping. And this girl in her 20s, early 30s comes up to me and says, "Oh, you're Bill Duke the actor, you know, I love your movies, etc." I said, "Thank you very much." So I go around the corner to another aisle to shop, and she comes up to me and she says, "I'm not trying to be rude, but you would make a great candidate for friends with benefits." Now, I'm not joking, man. I had never heard this term in my life. I'm in my 70s. I don't know that language, right? So I look at her and I said to her, "Are you talking about my Social Security benefits?" She looks at me for, it seemed like a minute, just walked away. I went home and told my daughter what happened, and my daughter laughed at me for at least 3 minutes. I never heard the term before, so.
Did you know Bill Cosby personally?
I met him a few times. I wasn't friends anymore.
Okay. When you look at, well, number one, before I ask this question, a lot of people that I talked to in Hollywood, they said that they had heard these stories about Bill Cosby and the rape allegations and stuff like that. Did you hear these types of stories before it all came to light?
Never.
Never. When you see what happened, a man who is now in his 80s, who has an unbelievable catalog. I mean, you know, you could despise Bill Cosby for what he got convicted for, but when you look at what he's done and how he's changed the perception even of black people in America, like, you know, D.L. Hughley does not like Bill Cosby, but he even said that he doesn't think that there would have been Barack Obama if it wasn't for the Cosby Show.
I don't think President Obama is president without Bill Cosby. I think that that's absolutely true. But you can be both.
Wait. You said that there would not be an Obama.
I don't think that. I think that Bill Cosby showed America that they could have a black father. So if they could have a black father, they could have a black leader. I think he set the table for Barack Obama.
Bill Cosby was a pioneer. I don't know if people in this country actually saw black families in their humanity before the Cosby Show. He brought humanity to it in a way that, whether you're black, white, Indian, Arabic, Hispanic, Asian, or whatever, if he had a family, he brought universal family issues to the table. Every single week you watch the show, there was something you could recognize, that you've gone through or somebody you know has gone through. So, and in terms of some of the films he put together, etc., he was a pioneer in a lot of ways. The fact that he tried to buy NBC at one time, that was unheard of. I mean, a black man buying a network, that was unheard of at the time. So, and then the people don't know, but the money he gave to black universities, I'm talking about thousands, I'm talking about millions. You know, it was amazing, and that's why we loved him in our community, because he gave back. He set examples that we wanted to follow. He was the perfect father figure, etc. I don't think there were many people at all that knew all the other stuff that was happening. And I mean, I'd never heard of it.
I mean, right now, as we're talking, Bill Cosby's sitting in a cell in Pennsylvania. You know, were you surprised that he actually got convicted?
Not really. Because of the number of women coming out, their ethnicities, I mean, it was crushing in the sense that, you know, here goes another black man, you know, down the tubes, you know, in a relatively shameful way. And when I talk to people about it, you know, in our community, they're really heartbroken because, I mean, when I say he was a hero, I'm not exaggerating. I mean, he was the father figure to follow, you know, and the mother was a mother figure to follow, to be like. And to see that just, it did a lot.
Yeah, I think that the current generation, you know, the millennials don't realize how huge Bill Cosby was.
He was gigantic.
Like, just to put in perspective, Coca-Cola, you know, the biggest soft drink company on earth, when they introduced New Coke, Bill Cosby was the spokesman, was the one who presented this.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest soft drink company in the world making the biggest announcement they've ever made, they went and got Bill Cosby to make that announcement. That's how big he was. He was literally the biggest celebrity on earth for quite a while.
Many, many, many years.
Many years. Many years. Yeah, it's crazy. You know, to go through all that and to have your legacy completely destroyed is, yeah.
Do you think he'll die in jail, or you think they'll give him a break, or you think he'll be the whole 10 years?
I mean, they gave him 3 to 10 years. He'll probably do 3. I mean, I doubt he's gonna, you know, start a lot of fights. I don't think he's gonna stab anyone in prison or, you know, cause any riots or anything else like that. I'm sure he'll be a fairly good, you know, quiet prisoner during his stay in there, and you know, quietly do his time. Yeah, crazy. Now you actually created a documentary called Dark Girls and Light Girls.
Yes.
And this actually was based on your own personal experiences, seeing how women of different complexions were treated as you were growing up.
Yes, how I was treated, how I saw women being treated, but more specifically, racism in our own community, based upon slavery principles. A lot of the racism in our community is based upon the house Negroes versus the field Negroes. And the house Negroes were the ones who Massa had sex with a slave, and she'd have a baby, and because they were mixed, black and white, they have the privilege of working in the house as servants, cooks, maids, etc. But if you were dark, you worked in the field from sun up to sun down, and that was the division. and the field Negroes were not fond of the house Negroes because they had privileges, and the house Negroes were not fond of the field Negroes because they were privileged. Until this day, if you go online under hashtag Team Light Skin, hashtag Team Dark Skin, you'll see light-skinned black women and dark-skinned black women looking over beauty issues, and each of them has over 300,000 members. The irony is, I have white female friends who go to tanning salons once or twice a week, come darker, crinkle up their hair, get Botox lips and butt lifts to look more ethnic. Everybody wants to be black except us.
It's interesting because recently I interviewed a rapper from Florida. His name is Glock 9, and he's I believe he's Haitian, and he's very, very dark skinned, darker than you actually. And when I was talking to him, I asked, would he have a baby with someone of his own complexion? And he said definitely not.
I know if I'm fucking with you, I'm black as fuck. Like, I'm black as shit.
Yeah, black is beautiful though, man.
So I know if I fuck with a black baby, we gonna have a black ass baby.
So?
I ain't with that.
Why?
I'm already black as fuck.
So?
I can't. No.
It went viral afterwards, and everyone kind of got on him and everything. And he still, and you know, and he responded. He said, "Listen, none of you guys know what I went through growing up, so you guys can't tell me what I'm gonna do. You know, fuck y'all."
Well, you know, do you know that I think it's 50 billion? Did you know that skin bleach, I think, is a $50 billion business? Globally?
That's pretty crazy.
Skin bleach? Have you seen Sammy Sosa?
Oh yeah, he looks crazy.
So I'm simply saying that this is an issue that exists today in a big way. There was in Dark Girls, my movie, we interviewed some women from Africa and saw the African women in Africa, and some of them bleached their whole bodies, and they were pregnant, and they knew that the bleaching could impact the baby, but they still bleached their entire bodies.
Yeah, there's actually, hold on, let me actually pull this up and show you what I'm talking about. There's a really famous reggae artist named Vybz Kartel.
Yes.
You know about him?
Yes.
And he's I mean, he's in prison right now for murder, you know, in Jamaica.
Really?
Yeah. He got convicted of murder in Jamaica. But you know, he bleached his skin. And just recently, let me show you a picture of this. His 13-year-old son did the same thing as his dad. 13 years old.
You see, I think you saw in Dark Girls this little girl, I think she was 5, and in my film, she's sitting in front of these dolls.
Yeah, the doll test. Yeah, I heard
The
about
doll
that.
test. And she's very dark, like me, right? A little girl. And the psychologist asks her questions. They say, point to the beautiful doll. She points to the white doll. Point to the smart doll. She points to the white doll. Every time they ask her a question like that, she points to something that's opposite of herself. So it's ingrained at a very early age. And so you come up with this, it's actually traumatizing experience.
Oh yeah.
You don't just get over it. You've been told you're ugly. One of the things in my film one of the moments that I never forget is this mother is driving her daughter from school with the daughter's in the back seat and her best friend's next to her in the passenger seat. And she looks in the mirror back at her daughter and she says to her friend, "Look how beautiful my daughter is, you know." the cheekbones, the eyes, you know. Can you imagine how fabulous she would be if she had some lightness to her skin? This is in front of her daughter. And my friend, she's not saying it in a way that's trying to in any way damage her daughter. This is an ingrained belief. She's just wishing her daughter could be lighter.
It's sad, man, in 2018 that we're still having this conversation.
I think it's
in
tragic.
2018. But, I think a lot of people don't realize, when people say, well, slavery was a long time ago, get over it. But America's actually had slavery longer than they didn't have slavery.
That's very true. That's very true. And we still suffer from the trauma of that. It was our Holocaust, and people are still suffering from it in a lot of ways. And we have to do something about it. We can't keep complaining and suffering and saying, oh, I'm not doing this or that because of segregation or slavery or whatever. And we have to get off our butts and start to save our communities, and that's imperative, especially black men and women. But to suggest that it had no impact and still has, Deepak Chopra wrote this brilliant book, which I read, called Super Genes. And it talks about genetic inheritance. And they did this experiment, him and his partner in the book did this experiment on this cat, female cat. And she was fenced in a fence that was electrified. And they fed the calf and everything, and she grew into an adult female cow. And they brought a bull in, and she got impregnated. And but one day before she was impregnated, the female calf touched the fence with her nose and burned her nose. And burned her, but it healed. So once she was impregnated, the calves came out, little cows came out. And they watched those cows for a long time. Not one of those cows ever went near that fence.
Yeah, you pass down your trauma.
Genetically.
Genetically, yeah, I've heard that before.
And slavery has been passed down genetically.
When you hear Kanye West saying slavery was a choice and, they were there for hundreds of years, it must have been a choice. How does that make you feel?
I think it's a combination of anger and sadness. There's a book that was written by these two white gentlemen called Without Sanctuary. If you ever get a chance to read it, it is one of the most profoundly disturbing books I've ever seen in my life. It's a pictorial history of lynchings and what they used to call nigger barbecues. I'm talking about children, women, male adults, lynched. And then they used to put us alive on spits with a fire beneath it and turn us and roast us until we dehydrated. And they'd pick up pieces of the bodies, and hundreds of whites would be standing and taking pictures with a body piece in their hand. They have the pictures, they show the pictures in the book. And they say, just get over that? You don't get over that. You have to move on. You have to live your life. You have to grow. You have to accomplish. You cannot use excuses. But that is in spite of your history. Get over it. See, people who say those. So I'm not so sure that Mr. West has. You know, I have split feelings about Kanye West because I think some of the things he's doing now I don't really understand. But I remember when I first started listening to him, he's one of the best lyricists that came out of the rap community. I mean,
I agree.
I mean, great lyrics. I mean, I don't know if it was in School Days or I forgot which album it was from. But he had this lyric that stuck in my head to this day. And he says, "Oh, my people, for that dollar, how low we'll stoop. But when you riding in your Benz, there's still a nigga in a coupe." Remember that?
Yeah, that was All Falls Down.
All falls down.
Yeah.
And the truth of that and the truth of many of his other lyrics, I just, in those days, I thought that he was one of the, because it wasn't just about beats and sex. It was about content, about social content, etc. But I think after his mother's death, something happened. I'm not sure what it was. I can't speak for him, but he went on a different path. And so, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people, you know, like when I interviewed D.L. Hughley, he basically said, you know, after Kanye said that, fuck him forever.
When you make white people, white racists feel good about themselves and go, see, fuck you forever. I mean it.
You know, no type of apology will make up for statements like that. You know, putting an asterisk by slavery. Yeah.
Well, did you see the Entertainment Tonight interview? Did you see that?
Oh, that was TMZ.
Yeah, yes. And
TMZ.
that was amazing. That was. But the young man represented a lot of the feelings of our community about some of those statements.
As I'm going through your accomplishments, you know, you're appointed by Bill Clinton to the National Endowment of Humanities. You know, you got a Lifetime Achievement Tribute from the Directors Guild of America. Both on the acting side and the directing side, I think you've done phenomenal work.
Thank you. Thank you.
And, you know, you did it with dignity. You did it with self-respect. You tackled a lot of social issues that other people would not have done. And I think that the legacy that you've left is amazing. And I think that the most interesting part, and you've talked about this in other interviews, is that, you know, you still love what you do. You wake up every morning, you can't wait to get to work. You said something interesting in this other interview where most people, when they get confronted between making a choice between happiness and stability, most people will take stability. But you actually went the other way.
Yes. I came up in a family of hardworking people who appreciated the dollars that they made from their work, but hated their jobs. And they would retire and were dead within 5 to 10 years. And I saw the pain of that. I had uncles who were musicians and singers and stuff. But in those days it was hard for them, and they didn't have the faith in themselves to continue against the obstacles that they faced. But some of the best voices I've ever heard, some of the best comedy I've ever heard was in my family. But I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to take the chances. And that's what I talk about in my autobiography, my 40 years behind and in front of the camera. You know, I respect all the people who provide for their families, send their kids to college, pay for their homes, insurance, retirement. There's a security in that. But financial and social and security on a social platform does not fill all the vacuums we have inside. I have some friends that are very wealthy and very unhappy at the same time. So it's about finding that balance. How do you live a life of fulfillment where you literally, when you wake up in the morning, you want to go to work because you love what you do.
Yeah.
And you're people like yourself, you love what you do. You have a passion.
Yeah.
And
it's obvious.
Yeah, and so do I. And you pay a price for that, but at the same time, the reward is far beyond the price you pay. And so I try to encourage people in my book to, for example, I talk about the business of Hollywood. I mean, I have a foundation, the Duke Media Foundation, and a lot of the kids come in there with passion. They want to be in the business, but we teach them the business. We teach them, okay, you want to be an actor, you want to be a director, you want to be a writer. That's all good. But do you understand the craft of those things? And do you understand the business of Hollywood? Because those of us who didn't understand the business coming in were damaged because we just were passionate. Passion without a plan is called frustration. So we tried to give that back, but it's a rewarding business, but as you know, difficult also.
It is. But in 2018, going into 2019, you have more opportunities than ever before to not only create your own content, but own your own content. And I say this a lot. The reason why I started Vlad TV is because I just realized that no one else was going to put me on. I just was not going to get any chances from anybody. I got, Hollywood, even to this day, as established as we are, I've had so many talks about TV deals and so forth, and none of them have come, have turned into anything. But it doesn't matter because I own all my own content. I create it all, and it really doesn't matter. I've done a great business that I can support my family with and so forth. But you don't wait for anyone to put you on. Not in 2018. Put it out yourself. You mentioned people have created movies using iPhones. People have become YouTube stars.
I just worked on one with Steven. I mean, what you're saying is so encouraging because what you're saying is don't wait for Hollywood to discover you. Discover yourself. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are examples. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's been, 10 years, right? Start off as webisodes.
Yep.
Issa Rae has a big deal with HBO.
Yep, she started out on YouTube.
You know what I'm saying? So you really don't. I mean, I acted in the film in New York this year with Steven Soderbergh. He shot the entire feature film. It's called High Flying Bird, with 4 or 5 iPhone 8s. There was no big lighting crew. He was mostly available light. And one of the funniest things was there was no dolly track or dolly. When he did dolly shots, they rolled him around in the wheelchair. And he used to eat dinner, and go edit the footage that night that he shot.
Yep.
So the thing is, what you're saying is profound in the sense that I had this young actress recently who came to me for advice, and she had just spent, I think, $1,700 or more on pictures. And I said, well, he's a famous photographer. I said, okay, if you're a casting director, you think the casting director will see your picture or something you've acted in? She said, something I've acted in. I said, are you taking acting classes? She says, yes, for the last 4 or 5 years. I said, did you ever film any of the scenes that you did with your acting partners? She said, no. So, but that changed her way of thinking about how to present herself because she's waiting to be discovered. I just think that today, there was no internet when I came along. There were no cell phones. I remember the first cell phone, the sucker was this big.
Right, the brick phone.
The brick phone.
I remember that.
You know?
Yeah.
And so kids today, I mean, all of us today have opportunities not only for the creation of content, but the distribution.
Yep.
You go global with a push of a button.
Exactly.
Does that make any sense?
Exactly. We do, like, we had a record month last month on Vlad TV, on our YouTube channel. We had 53 million views in 1 month. We do roughly 2 million a day, give or take a couple 100,000. 53 million people watched these videos that we created, that we put out, with no network, we own everything. And I think for me the most important thing is that I got tired of waiting, of presenting my ideas and having people tell me whether or not they wanted to co-sign them. I get to interview, and that's the thing, I get to wake up every morning and I think, who do I really want to talk to today? Bill Duke. I loved all these movies he did. I'm gonna go ahead and talk to him because I want to do it and I'm gonna put it out. And I think my audience will react to it, but if not, whatever. then the next day I'll go do someone else. You see what I'm saying? And I think that's so important, is the control, the ownership.
It's the future.
Yeah.
It's the future. And you're an example of that. I mean, how many TV shows that are on the air now, how many feature films that you know of have attracted 53 million eyeballs?
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
Just the business model itself.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that, and we try to give this to our kids in our foundation, that you can do it now, but we want you to learn the craft, so it's not just garbage, but you learn the craft of it, and then you have access today.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was coming along and I talked to kids about this, they'd never heard these two words, flatbed and a moviola. Because in those days, it was actually film. And when they say cutting film, you literally took a razor blade or scissors and cut the film and pasted it together, right? When you edited, right?
Yep.
I remember the first when George Lucas had the first digital machine. It blew our minds. So it's a totally different world and a totally different time, and we have to have our kids leverage that.
Absolutely. And if you ever want me to come talk to, the kids in your foundation, I'd be more than happy to.
I would love to.
Yeah. Bring in someone that's actually doing, some of the stuff you're talking about independently without any sort of financing or anything else like that. Yeah, I would love to present that to them.
Great. Thank you so much.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Bill Duke, man, thank you so much for coming through. Huge fan. I'm going to go watch Menace to Society after this. I've already interviewed Tyron Turner, who told me, the whole behind the scenes thing. But like I said, huge fan, man, and congratulations for all the work, both in front of the camera and behind the camera.
Thank you so much, man. Forgive my swollen lip from the dentist, but this was a great interview, great questions and insight, man. I really appreciate it. And I want to tell folks again, man, please go check my book out. Bill Duke, 40 years in front of and behind the camera. I think you'll find it's about my life and career, but also try to put some nuggets in there for young folks in terms of the business itself. Second thing I would say is Mandy. It's a film I'm in with Nicolas Cage. It's doing very, very well, and it's something I think that people will really, really like as I'm not a horror movie person, but it's gotten such play. It's got a 95% rating on positive rating on Rotten Tomato, and it's coming back out in theaters. And so I'm just really fortunate to be working. And the last thing I would say, check me out on Black Lightning. It's a great show. It's a black action hero show, and
right.
It's on every Tuesday at 9 o'clock on CW, and it's something that I think people will like.
Yeah, I mean, I guess because they just announced that Luke Cage just got canceled.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Luke Cage just got canceled. They're actually in production for their 3rd season, and Netflix just canceled it. So I guess Black Lightning is the only black superhero show left on television.
So far, so good.
Yeah, no doubt. Bill Duke, man, until next time.
God bless you, brother. Thank you, man. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Peace.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the black militia that marched in Stone Mountain, Georgia, not Atlanta. We'll get to that in a minute. By the name of NFAC. That's the Not Effing Around Coalition. Now, this particular group of about 200 plus black armed people was led by a guy by the name of Grandmaster Jay, or pardon me, the real Grandmaster Jay. And what they were able to do, from what I'm reading, is assemble at least 4 different black gun clubs to form the militia. Now, before I get into the details of the whole situation, let's roll the clip. This will be from 11 Alive down there in Atlanta local news. You'll see a little bit about them and what's going on. After we get done watching all of that, I'll give you some more context. Then I'll give you my 2 cents, my detailed analysis, and then I'll wrap it on up with a nice bow on top. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
Do solemnly swear to protect the black nation. To protect the black nation.
Hundreds of protesters dressed in black, armed with assault rifles, and a passionate plea at Stone Mountain Park today demanding the carving of Confederate figures be removed from the mountain. Those figures include Jefferson Davis, Robert E. Lee, and Stonewall Jackson. And although some called it an alarming sight, park police tell us they had no issues with that gathering. Jay Plyburn joins us live from the park with the latest. Jay?
Hey, good evening. It's been an interesting Independence Day here at Stone Mountain, an area which usually sees about 4 million visitors each year, partially because of this unique monument behind me, a Confederate monument at that. And take a look at the video from earlier this afternoon. There were not originally many people here today. The park actually just reopened after closing for COVID-19. But this afternoon, more than 100 people showed up right here protesting the monument, which is one of the largest of its type in the country. The protesters were heavily armed, but workers with the park's public safety division said they had no issues with the group coming in to exercise their free speech.
It's a public park, state park. We have these protests on both sides of the issue from time to time. We respect people's First Amendment right to exercise those rights. We understand the sensitivities of the issue here at the park and the dark paths, so we respect that and allow them to come in. As long as it's peaceful, which it has been, then that's fine.
This ain't the one you want to talk about. We ain't no Black Lives Matter. We ain't none of that. Go ahead, let's go. We're Black Militia. You see your worst nightmare. Go ahead. We're Black Militia, bro. Let me talk to you like for a minute. What are you? I just told you what I was. What are you? What are you in question? Everywhere you go, you invade, steal, rape, rob, and kill us. Then you steal people's culture. Then you have to do to have an attitude about it. Where's our reparations? Thank you. Of course. I like the song. It's not what you did. What's the answer? I see that. You benefit from being over here. That white narrative before you lose your life.
All right, so you saw that, you heard that. Now, I'm not really sure where to begin. I guess first things first would be, why were they there? Like they said in the news clip, they were there partially to get the sculpture, the Confederate sculpture on the rock, the big rock known as Stone Mountain, removed. Now, I'm not sure how you're going to do that, but you're going to sandblast it. You're going to put TNT up on the rock. You can't move this big, gigantic rock into a museum. So I'm not sure how they're going to do that or what's even the purpose of, protests on the rock. But they were not just there for that particular reason. They were also there to demonstrate their Second Amendment rights. And I got no issue with that, none whatsoever. You following the law, you got your permits, whatever you need to carry your weapon, then go for it. That's your right. Go ahead and do so. But they were not only there for Second Amendment rights or the carving on the rock. Nah, they were talking to people and telling them what they're all about. They're saying, yeah, we want to set aside in Texas. And what I mean by quote unquote set aside is like a sovereign little place, a kind of a sovereign state. Now, what kind of group can say we want to be separate? We want our own sovereign state. We want reparations. We got guns. We're going to do whatever we want to do, no permits or whatever, and not get called some kind of hate group. Okay, if you're a black group like that, you can do that, and that's fine, no problem. Imagine if this group were white. What if the color was different and they were saying some of the similar things? We want our own white set-aside group somewhere in Utah or Washington State or something like that. You want the Pacific, what it say, the Northwest Front? Like what if they would say something like that and they were white? They'd be considered a white supremacist group, white nationalist group right away. Matter of fact, the real Grandmaster Jay allegedly was getting a threat from so-called Klan. And by the way, have you ever met anybody from the Klan? Have you ever seen anybody from the Klan, like in real life? The last time I seen these guys wearing the hoods or whatever was like back in early 90s talk shows like Ricky Lake, Sally Jesse Raphael, Phil Donahue. I mean, these guys are not really around anymore, but I don't think they were there talking about NFAC. I don't think they were there for the specific purpose of trying to fight them. But if anybody showed up, they were going to be ready to rock. And that's pretty much what that was. The real Grandmaster Jay was kind of inciting some of that, talking about where you guys at, we here, let's go. So like I said, if it were a different color, then it'd be different. But anyway, let's talk about where they were. You out there, not in the perimeter at all. And if you know Atlanta, the perimeter is like, what's that, 285? That's like the core of Atlanta. Once you're out of the perimeter, you're far away. You're like kind of in the suburbs or way far. You could still be inside the perimeter and not in the city of Atlanta. Atlanta's actually kind of small. It's like 600,000 population, but the metro area is very big. It's like 4.5 million, something like that. That's what makes Atlanta kind of a metropolis, not necessarily the city limits itself, but different story, I digress. My whole point is that they were not in the perimeter. They were not very close to the city of Atlanta. They're out there in Stone Mountain, a very small city with like 15 cops. You are in a little small place with 200 people protesting Iraq, demonstrating right to bear arms. But why don't you take that same energy and go down to Zone 3, Zone 6, where the black community is having a lot of problems right now. You got little kids getting killed, 8-year-old little girls. Sequoia Turner, may she rest in peace, getting killed. Okay, if you got that same energy about we're going to defend ourselves, we're going to use deadly force to defend ourselves, not just them that were out there, I'm talking about black people in general. If you got that same energy in the city of Atlanta and not way out far past beyond the perimeter, then you can actually get something done. I'll be for that. Okay, community policing, okay. If that's what you want, then these are the guys right here that you need to have on your team, right? I mean, maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But if you don't want the police, if you say F the police, F12, how about these guys? They should be what you want. They're black, they're pro-black, they want the best for you. But instead of being down there, Zone 3, Zone 6, Edgewood, whatever, you wouldn't be way outside the perimeter protesting the rock. I'm just trying to figure out how that makes any sense, all right? I'm not against your protest. I'm not saying you can't bear arms. I'm just saying let's channel the energy properly. That's all, okay? But you know what? Some of these guys don't really need to be out there trying to protest or rock or fight the so-called boogie boys or trying to defend anybody in Zone 3, 6, or anywhere else in Atlanta, Georgia, because I was seeing some LARPers out there, all right? Now, some of these guys were legitimate. I can kind of tell by looking at them, they appeared to be legitimate, but you got a lot of guys from different clubs coming together. You don't really know who you're getting at the end of the day. It could be some infiltrating in there. I've seen some of these guys at BLM protests. Okay, there's one guy right here, I've seen him before at a BLM type thing. You know, you had some agitators in there. You had some guys that will just come up to you and start a fight because they want to rumble. Okay, you have some guys that are in there like that. You have some LARPers. One guy had an active jam in his rifle. It's like, sir, your little 22 long rifle drum fed with a jam in it ain't gonna do nothing, okay? You need to go ahead and clear that and, you know, just get yourself together, okay? Do a little bit of workout, some Pilates or something like that, because if I run away and you trying to fire your gun at me, it's not gonna do nothing. First of all, you got that jam. Second of all, you just kind of discombobulated. You can't chase me, so tighten up, all right? Some of these LARPers, if you don't know what that means live action role player, LARP, LARP. Some of these LARPers should just go back to the crib. They shouldn't be out there trying to defend anybody, but some guys are legitimate. They're trained military guys. Like, I think the real Grandmaster Jay might have been a military guy. Some of these guys can go out there and defend the black community rather than protesting The Rock. That's just kind of how I see it. Right to bear arms, I'm with it 100%. No problem with that. I'm just saying direct your energy where it really should be at, rather than trying to protest rocks. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Do you think that these NFAC guys are legitimate, illegitimate? Whatever your thoughts on that are, let me know in the comments below. Do you think that what they're doing, protesting The Rock, makes sense? Does it not make sense? Whatever your thoughts on that are, let me know in the box. You know pretty much where I stand. Protesting The Rock, what's the purpose? I mean, you could use that same energy to go towards things that matter. That's my whole issue with any of these so-called protests. Black Lives Matter, Antifa, whatever. Okay, the energy that you're using could be used in a better way to get an actual result that you would like. You would want a safer community, yes? You would want less police interaction with the community, yes? If that's what you want, then take your energy and put it to where it needs to be used, rather than trying to say F the police, F12, F this, F that. Support this, support that, things that actually help. Support the police, okay? Rather than just saying F them, you go out there, do some proactive things yourself to help with the community, okay? Don't engage in crime. You can do things that will prevent you from even dealing with the police. But rather than doing that, you want to bring more police in your direction. I just don't see how these things make any sense. But maybe I'm wrong, maybe they're right, whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I gotta say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.
This is insane. This is insane.
I'm sorry,
I can't. I don't want to say these things. This is insane. This is insane. This person.
The information they were giving me was terrifying.
You are so manipulative.
Hey guys, welcome back to the #1 YouTube channel named Arkham. Let's get into it. So I've gathered you all here today to out Tati Westbrook's formula for canceling YouTubers to get more views on her own channel. And these YouTubers are her supposed friends. Now I'm also going to be talking about the drama concerning Shane Dawson, Jeffree Star, and now recently Trisha Paytas, who I guess is Shane's only friend that's willing to stick up for him. Also, it seems like Trisha Paytas is the one that's making the most sense of this entire situation, which is shocking to see Trisha be the one to make the most sense. Really, the YouTuber that makes the most sense is the one that sits on the floor, cries, and eats a whole bowl of spaghetti? Okay. Let's talk about Trisha Paytas, the queen of mukbangs first. For those of you that don't know Trisha Paytas is like the cockroach of YouTube in that she's nuke-proof. Specifically content nuke-proof. This girl will not stop. She gets in a different controversy every week. And I'll be honest, I've never seen somebody take controversies on the chin like Trisha Paytas. She just is like the little engine that could. She keeps trucking along, dude. Many of you are probably asking, what is Trisha Paytas' formula for getting canceled so often and just getting through it? Dude, she just spam posts videos of her sitting on the floor crying and eating a whole pizza or something. Like, that's just what she does. And the funniest part is sometimes she doesn't even address the controversy in the video she uploads. She just talks nonsense for 40 minutes. But everyone still stays and watches and gives that watch time, and she just keeps making videos like that until people forget about the controversy. It's the wildest thing I've ever seen in my life, but like, I respect the fact that she just has a big sack of balls. Most YouTubers nowadays, they kind of have little pussy balls. Trisha, big sack.
I used to have like be a little bit of a necrophiliac. I never had sex with dead bodies, but I would often fantasize about that. But I say that out of fear, because China's smart. Because isn't that where Kim Jong-un is?
Isn't that where Kim Jong-un is?
Okay. Wow. Hi. The audience is right. You look like you work in Vegas.
Really? I know I get that a lot. Someone thought I was a stripper or a porn star. I'm like, nope, I love Jesus. I'm not like...
Yeah, bring on the Rottweilers.
Like I said earlier, I'm mentioning Trisha Paytas because she's the only YouTuber that's the voice of reason in this Tati Westbrook, Shane Dawson, Jeffree Star drama.
Tati is saying she made a video because she was manipulated by two grown adults. In that video, Tati, you accused James Charles of being a sexual predator, of sexual crimes. You should be investigated for making false criminal claims. But if someone's like pushing you to do a video or pushing you that way, you're a grown woman. You're probably near 40. You can make that decision yourself. And why now are you deciding to speak up? Because it's cool to hate Shane and Jeffree? We are in the midst of a pandemic, of a racial movement, and this girl is concerned about letting people know that she was kind of pushed into doing a video about James Charles. You were salty as that he promoted a different hair company, hair vitamin. I don't know what you were bitter. Like, just say that. And you threw in the sexual assault. You went above and beyond to be like, hey, I heard you were a sexual predator, trying to get, like you said yourself, he was at your dinner table saying how he was trying to get straight guys and trick them or whatever the you said.
You are using your fame, your power, your money to play with people's emotions. You're threatening to ruin them. You're threatening to embarrass them. And you're doing that to have them behave sexually in your favor, even if they're straight. How dare you laugh about it and make meme after meme and retweet and this and that and I love straight boys, and make it a joke. Because this behavior is not normal, it's not okay. Eye to Eye had enough respect for you and love for you and care for you to tell you to go and get some help. I told you that this was not good and that you could have your career completely destroyed. Parents, like I thought around his parents that he would not behave this way, like it was just like no big deal. Like sucking dick and cock. Like I'm just like, oh my God.
James, honey, put down your pinkety drinkety and listen to me. You can't talk about sucking straight boys' cocks at the dinner table. It's inappropriate. Wow, Tati, I didn't realize you were a prude. Am I right, guys? What a prude.
Time and place. And you did it at my birthday dinner. And I made excuses for you then.
So here's the clip Trisha was referencing.
You were talking in detail about things you wanted to do to the waiter. And when I said, James, he's straight, your response was, doesn't matter, I'm a celebrity. So freaking gross. And you said that in front of my family, in front of my childhood friends. I had to call every one of them up the next morning and apologize on your behalf because it was so uncomfortable.
I'm sure everybody knows by now Tati Westbrook uploaded a video titled Breaking My Silence. Now when this video was posted, I had a lot of wet socks reach out to me and say things like, Nick, why aren't you making video on this? Tati outed Shane Dawson, he's clearly guilty. Guys, I didn't make a video because I could tell that Tati was clearly lying. Tati's new video, Breaking My Silence, actually follows the same formula as her Bye Sister video she made about a year ago on Jamie Charlie. But don't take my word for it, I'll be linking both videos in my bio. You're free to watch both and make your own educated decision. In both her videos, she speaks in a very soothing voice, looks very well dressed, makeup, everything's done to a T. Mentions that she's scared to even film this video and is fearing for her life. She reads off a script that was proofread by attorneys or cleared through attorneys. And I thought that was a nice little touch because anytime people hear attorneys are involved, it just validates what that person says more because people are like, oh shit, attorneys are involved. Even if they're not really involved.
I am going to be reading from what is approved by my legal team, so I am, once I start getting into what I need to share with you guys today, what I feel is important to share with you.
Anyway, she mentions attorneys are involved. She reads off her script and doesn't deviate from the script and provides no evidence for the claim she is making. She claims she can't provide evidence for her claims because attorneys are involved, which is quite the convenient thing, isn't it? And everyone hears attorneys are involved, so they're just like, oh, well, I'll believe everything she said. Like, come on, guys. Before she starts her video, she mentions God because God highly gives a f about the makeup community drama, and she wants to get all the Christians on her side. I don't personally think it's mighty Christian to out a kid for not selling your gummy vitamins and try to ruin his life and put him on suicide watch about a year ago, and then make a video a year later and try to shift the blame on Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star. I personally don't think that's mighty Christian, but let me know what you guys think in the comments.
But I do want to ask anyone watching this that believes in anything higher than themselves, that believes in any higher power, you know, all higher power, all God is love and the root of love. And I am a woman of faith, and I've been praying every day over this.
That's really dope, Tati. I'm happy to hear you've been praying about this beauty guru drama. There's a global pandemic, bro. There's like murder hornets, the world's ending, but good to know you're praying about this bullshit. Regarding her old Bye Sister video, she claims that she had no idea she was making a video. So why did all these editorial outlets know that a video was coming?
Mind that up until this point, I didn't even know I was making a video. So how is it that so many editorial outlets knew that something was coming before I had even made a decision to film? To be in full disclosure, I have spoken with 2 drama channels that reached out, and one of them is Here for the Tea, the other is Tea Spill. They're both making videos.
Well, that's sure weird, Tati. It looks like you admitted that you were the one talking to the drama channels and they all knew a video was coming because you told them. Huh. Well, that's kind of manipulative to all of a sudden blame it on Shane Dawson while he's getting canceled. But let's go one step further. When beauty guru Tati Westbrook uploaded her first video, Bye Sister, about James Charles and canceling James Charles, it was about the same time when public opinion was against James Charles. A lot of people were mad at him, they were trying to cancel him, and it's weird because it's kind of like the same situation that Shane Dawson's in now, and all of a sudden you uploaded a video on Shane Dawson. The beauty community is wild, bro. So Tati Westbrook is doing the same thing she did to James Charles to Shane Dawson, and then wants to blame her original video she made on James on Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star and be like, they made me make the video. They put a gun to my head and made me make the video. No, they didn't, dude. You made the video so that you could cancel your supposed friend because he didn't support your gummy vitamin company. Like I said before, I have no horse in this race, so I don't care. I literally don't care. Now everyone here is educated because we got a wicked smart audience, so let's put our thinking caps on and talk about this for a second. Let's break down Tati's video really quick. So writing a script for a 40-minute long video, maybe looking at a day or 2. Next thing you know, sending said script to a bunch of attorneys to review. Attorneys, you know, they kind of go at their own pace, especially entertainment law attorneys that hourly in LA probably cost around $400. They probably took a day or 2 to review her script that she supposedly sent to attorneys. It probably took her a day to sit down and film this video and another day to edit the video. Overall, I think this video Tati put out took her about a week to make, and I think she made it in advance. I'll be honest, Tati Westbrook is very intelligent, and I can see how she manipulated so many people into believing that she's telling the truth. She's kind of like a spider casting a canceled web, and the minute an influencer is in that canceled web and they can't move, that's when she really sicks the fangs in, dude. That's when she makes that 40-minute long video Calm can post talking, hey guys, this is my truth. Oh my god, I'm so sorry for that video I uploaded on you, James. I'm so sorry, but it got me 5 million more subscribers, so I'm not really that sorry. And she'll make this video and say there's attorneys involved and try to validate what she's saying is the truth the entire time. Even though there's loopholes in her story, and if you go back and look at her old video, she makes certain points that she actually debunks in her old video, which was kind of careless of her. And that's exactly what she does. She waits until public opinion is against her target, all the walls are coming down on their career, and then she'll come out of nowhere and throw a fucking haymaker. And I'll be honest, it's a smart strategy because psychologically, people are going to be more inclined to be on Tati's side when they're already mad at Shane Dawson. And I want to make another thing perfectly clear. The worst thing you can do against an opponent like Tati Westbrook is exactly what Shane Dawson and James Charles originally did, which is throw out an emotional response. Guys, don't do that. Here's some clips of the emotional response that Shane Dawson put out.
This is insane. This is insane. This woman is I'm gonna wait till as many people get in here as... Keep playing it. Keep playing it.
I didn't know I was making a video. So how is it that so many editorial outlets knew that something was coming before I...
Because you message drama channels! Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
The audio was clearly a small portion of
Oh my
the
God.
conversation. It wasn't enough for me to contact the authorities. It was enough to scare me.
Well, then why would you make a video on the matter claiming these allegations?
Because she is a fucking... I can't. I don't want to say mean things about people. This is insane. This is insane. This person literally... Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, sorry. Keep pressing play. I need to get through this video so I can fucking... Oh my god.
As a victim of abuse myself,
Oh my god. You are so manipulative.
to think of facing public...
You're fake crying. You are fake crying. You are fake crying. That is not real. Oh my god.
Dude, against an opponent like this, you do not post a flustered, dramatic response where you can't clearly form sentences. This is what you don't do because you're getting buried right now. Public opinion's already against you. What you need to do is upload a 40-minute long video, calm, soothing, talk to the camera, go by each single point and debunk them, provide evidence, provide receipts. I mean, just think about what James Charles did. When he posted that video and he had proof debunking everything Tati said, everyone was like, oh my god, Tati lied about the whole thing. What do you think she's doing now, bros? Come on. Like, you think she's telling the truth? She's doing the same exact thing that she did last time. And I don't know about you guys, have you guys ever posted a 40-minute long video shitting on one of your friends, trying to cancel them or kick them when they're down? I haven't. And a lot of people have been throwing out her age. I do think it's strange for an almost 40-year-old woman to be doing something like this. Like, dude, grow up. You already canceled 19-year-old James Charles, who you supposedly were like his like mother figure or some shit. Like, that's how you made it sound. It was creepy and weird how you worded it. I just think it's funny how people can get up there and be like, man, I'm such a good person and I'm not at fault. It's everyone else, and so dramatic and toxic, and I've been so upset this year. Come on, bro. You put a 19-year-old kid on suicide watch. Another thing Tati does that I find funny is she loves to drop the fact that she's a self-made woman, which is a weird flex but okay moment because your husband was the COO of Lionsgate. So I don't know how you can technically be self-made woman if you're at home and you don't have to worry about shit financially. Like, and feel free to disagree with me in the comments. I just think it's way easier to pursue a risky career like YouTube if you don't have to worry about anything financially. Like, that's the biggest factor when pursuing a risky career, whether that's acting, being a musician, YouTube, whatever that is. What it usually comes down to is I can't pursue this risky career anymore because I need to make money for myself or my family. That's what it usually comes down to. So if you don't have to worry about that and you started YouTube like what, 10 years ago? I don't know, man. I don't know if that's like self-made. Plus, what is self-made? Like, people help you along the path of life. So like, I don't know if anyone's self-made. I've been helped along the path of life. I'm sure you guys have too. But hey, keep going for that self-made businesswoman persona. It's super relatable, dude. We all look up to you, for sure. So as I said earlier, Tati's around 40 years old and she looks great for her age. What is your secret, Tati? Is it Tati Beauty? Can I also say I love the fact that in Tati's recent video, she was like, I never said that James had predatory behavior. And I was watching that video and I was like, yes, the fuck you did. Yo, Tati, you had an entire segment on your video about James Charles, about how supposedly a waiter came up to you guys and James was like, oh my god, he's hot, I'm gonna get with him, or I'm gonna hook up with him. And you were like, James, he's straight. And James was like, yeah, but I'm famous. And you were like, and I was just so appalled. I was so appalled. He embarrassed me in front of my friends. How could you say something like that? How could you? I was appalled. And all my friends, James, all my friends, that was so embarrassing for me, what you said. Am I the only one that saw this segment? Am I the only one that sees the hypocrisy? Is it just me, or is it you guys? Like, do we all see this? I really want to know. I'm curious, because I go in the comment section on some of this shit, and I look at them, and I'm like, yo, what are you talking about, dog? And now, Tati, it's super convenient for you to shift the blame on Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star. Like, they're the ones that made you make that video. Interesting. They're not the ones that gained 5 million subscribers from making the video shitting on their friend for not promoting their gummy vitamins. I don't know if you guys have watched a Shane Dawson video, but he's about as harmless as Winnie the Pooh. So I highly doubt that he made Tati Westbrook make that video on James. That being said, with Jeffree, I don't know, man. You know what I mean? I don't know, but with Shane, I don't think so, dude. And I know Shane's in hot water right now for jokes he made 10 years ago. I get it, man. Bad jokes. Really bad jokes. Stupid jokes. That being said, Should his entire life be ruined? No. Are his videos still fire? Yeah. Am I still gonna watch his videos? Probably. Do I think he made stupid fucking jokes and like did a bunch of dumb shit, blackface, all that dumb shit years ago? Yeah. Really dumb.
Yeah, me personally, I'm not a big fan of cancel culture. I'm all for holding people accountable and holding celebrities and YouTubers accountable, but I don't think people should have their lives be over because they made fucked up jokes 10 years ago. There's a lot of stand-up comedians I know and that I like that made really fucked up jokes too. When you make videos and content for 10 years, of course the times are gonna change. Of course you're gonna make fucking terrible jokes. And honestly, I just wish everyone would get off their high horse and stop holding everybody to an impossible standard, because I know for a fact all of you guys wouldn't want to hang out with the you in high school. Like, I'm sure the you in high school was cringe. The me in high school was super cringe, and I would probably not want to have a beer with that guy. We change every single year, every day. We constantly evolve. We'll evolve our humor, and so many YouTubers have evolved their content over time. So overall, can't we all just get along? We can hold everybody accountable. I think Shane and Jeffrey should be held accountable. They made really fucked up comments, and honestly, I'm surprised how many people are surprised that Shane and Jeffrey made comments like that in the past. Like, did you guys not see Jeffree Star's MySpace? Am I old as fuck? Or did you guys not see the stuff he posted on MySpace? Everyone that saw the stuff he posted on MySpace is probably not surprised that all this stuff is coming out. Like, his MySpace was wild, bro. And as for Shane Dawson used to be friends with Onision. They used to make like the same kind of content, except for Shane evolved his content over time and Onision didn't. So before Tati made her Bye Sister video, she was at around 4.5 million subscribers. After she made the video on James Charles, she was at around 9.5 million subscribers. So she basically boosted herself by 5 million by doing the same video she's doing now on Shane Dawson, not providing any facts and mentioning the same things about attorneys and I'm stick to the script and oh my god, how can you do this? I'm a victim. It's the same formula, bros. Come on, let's be smarter than this. And for Tati, morally, no gains, but in terms of business and growing her channel, big gains. It also shows how fickle people are in the makeup community because they all left James Charles. I think he lost like, what, 5 million subscribers or 4 million subscribers? They subscribed to Tati. And then when he makes his video showing evidence to back up all his claims, a lot of people just came back. Like, oh my god, we love you, James. We knew you were innocent the whole time. I'm not even in the makeup community, but when I saw that, I just thought that was hilarious. And it really shows how fickle people are. You can't hold everyone to the accountability of like a perfect person. Like, not everybody's gonna be, you know, Jesus Christ. Has anyone ever been to a stand-up comedy show? I have. I love them. I've seen some great stand-up comics. I've seen some stand-up comics that are like, oh my god, how are you a stand-up comedian? You're not funny at all. So I've seen people bomb on stage. Bad jokes are gonna happen, dude. You know, people are gonna make really offensive jokes. Sometimes they don't stick. They're not what people intend, but they make bad jokes. But do I think someone's entire life should get ruined for bad, inappropriate, shitty jokes they made 10 years ago? Honestly, I don't. Like, I don't think someone's life and career should be over because of that. And once again, feel free to disagree with me. Here's my thing though. I don't think we should hold somebody to an impossible standard. I've never watched somebody and then the minute like my favorite YouTuber or like my favorite influencer has made a mistake or done something kind of fucked up, I'm not messaging them being like, I look up to you and how could you do this to me? Like, no, dude, I just, you know, probably might stop watching your videos, you know? Might unsubscribe. If it's something dumb, I'll probably still watch your videos because I find you entertaining. I know a lot of people that listen to Chris Brown's music even though he beat the shit out of Rihanna. Let's not forget about that. Let's talk about Hollywood really crunching down and making fun of YouTubers, and any chance they get, a lot of celebrities take it upon themselves to call out YouTubers. Let's talk about the fact that most of you guys were friends with Harvey Weinstein. When you have a corrupt place like Hollywood and you have a lot of people in power, people are gonna abuse their power. That's a fact. Once again, I think it's different from committing atrocious acts and jokes. I think there's a difference there, and I think we need to really take a step back and look at this logically. Because even though the jokes are and they're bad, and it's just not funny, there's a difference between committing those atrocities that you're joking about.
Fame, power, and a fat bank account will change almost anyone.
And my thing is, you don't have to agree with everything Shane Dawson has said or done. Like, dude, the jokes sucked. They were shitty jokes, they were inappropriate jokes. I agree with that. I'm the first one to say that. That being said, if we're digging up all the past shit from everyone 10 years ago, I'm sure you can find a bunch of stuff. I play Call of Duty. You should hear what people say in the Call of Duty lobby.
Sounded like I deep-throated a cow, and then I said I deep-throated your mom, so your mom's a cow.
Last thing I'll say is you really know who your friends are when times are tough, and all this is really revealed is Shane Dawson has some backstabbing, fake-ass friends. So in short, cancel culture, bad. Don't cancel people. Just dance. Well, now that I've ended cancel culture, I'm gonna go watch Yu Yu Hockey Show because I'm rewatching the Dart Tournament arc, and that is more important to me than getting involved in all this drama. So I'm gonna go now. I might go on a walk. I might drink some beer. I might go to the park. I'm excited about it. I hope you guys are having a great day. Comment below. Let me know your thoughts. I love talking with you guys about this kind of shit in the comments. Let me know what you think about the situation. Comment below. Subscribe. Live your bread. Live your bread. Follow me on Twitch and on Instagram right now.
А ты, пожалуйста, не раскачивай ее.
Активируй антиполя. Он не пробьет их с одного удара. мощные атаки. В укрытие!
Антиполя.
Могу? А ты, пожалуйста, не раскачивай ее. Могу? А ты, пожалуйста, не раскачивай ее.
Активируй антиполя. Он не пробьет их с одного удара. Они готовятся к мощной атаке. В укрытие! Активируй антиполя. Он не пробьет их с одного удара. Они готовятся к мощной атаке. В укрытие!
Могу? А ты, пожалуйста, не раскачивай ее. Могу? А ты, пожалуйста, не раскачивай ее.
Активируй антиполя. Он не пробьет их с одного удара. Они готовятся к мощной атаке. В укрытие!
Могу? А ты, пожалуйста, не раскачивай ее.
What's up guys, T-Party Percy here and welcome back to another Season 2 info video. Today we got more infos about Season 2 changes. If you missed my first video, it's gonna be linked down below in the video description and it's gonna appear also on the top right corner of this video. In this video, we're gonna focus on equipment growth system and character growth system. It was already teasered in the previous infos or in my previous video, and now we got more infos. So let's start. First of all, we already saw a similar picture in the previous info or newsletter, and on this one you can see it reminds kinda or it looks similar to Diablo Rifts, and I think it's gonna work similar to that. And they here introduced also or explained more in depth that if you do those chaos dungeons, it's gonna be a chaos dungeon, you have a chance to get gear, you have a chance to get upgrade materials and a lot of stuff, and of course different rarity of gear. So I think once again it's going to be pretty close to Diablo Rifts, and this is going to change a lot of stuff, especially the gear you're going to get dropped here. Going to change a lot of things compared to the current progress system, and this is explained down below. First of all, the equipment quality. You will get equipment dropped in different qualities and with different enchantment, or yeah, the stars. So quality is like blue, purple, legendary and so on, and then you have, you know, there is polish effects or the polishment status from 0 to 5 stars. Depending on how many stars you have, you will have higher stats. So as you can see, the 2-star one gives you something 2.4%, and this one has 5 stars is 4.2%. And of course the rarity increases most likely the amount of stats you get, and also gives you another boost how much points you get. Once again, here is also a small explanation. Weapon quality will affect additional damage. Armor quality will affect physical defense, magical defense and stamina. So that is here physical defense, magical defense and stamina most likely. And once again, but the better the quality, the higher the numbers. And then trinket, which are the accessories, they're going to affect the character combat stats, which are the substats. Next we have the tripod effects. This is something new. This is gonna change a lot of things, and this might this and a lot of other stuff which I'm gonna explain down below might even change the entire class balance which we have currently. So let's talk about this one first, and it is about that your gear which you get, maybe only the weapon, will have randomly rolled rank increase for specific tripods or skills. I think it's more about tripods, and as you can see, here's an example. There is a gear part which increases the tripod by 2 ranks. Here it is rank 1, and most likely the guy has here a tripod for this, or weapon or armor with +2 for this specific tripod. And I guess depending on what the tripod does, or what it's gonna increase the number. So if it's a shield, then you're gonna get more shield the higher the rank is. If it's a damage increase skill or tripod, you're gonna increase the damage. And if it's a buff, most likely it's gonna increase the efficiency of the buff. Next, it is still about the tripod. As you can see, this weapon has 3 tripod modifications or upgrades or ranks, call it however you want. And if you find another weapon of lower quality or something which you don't want to use, and your main weapon has some bad tripod modifications, you can simply swap those out. And it reminds me of Diablo again. I think Diablo has a similar system too, and I'm totally fine with that. So basically you're gonna take out one of the more important or more useful one and replace it with something which you don't want to have on your current weapon. And as you can see, this is crucial. It only costs shilling, not gold. So we're gonna check or pay more attention to the stuff which